But again, thank you all for joining us in person tonight. So this is town hall number 3, I think, Dr. Brown. And he has some exciting updates that he wants to share with you all. So we will go ahead and get started. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Melvin J. Brown.
Good evening, family. It's a nice intimate conversation. We need to pull everybody together. We wanted to take this town hall to give a sense of what's been happening for the past 9 weeks or so. We finished the end of the first quarter tomorrow. A lot has happened. A lot still needs to take place, but getting a feel for what's happening in the district, what we want to do with the district. We've got a lot of things we can share tonight that we can talk through as well, knowing that the work will still continue on beyond. So let's start with some of the updates we want to share. I always want to go back to this slide at the beginning so everyone understands what our core message is. There are 4 categories we want to focus on that help us move our district in the right direction. Student learning, which is the achievement component. We're talking about teaching and learning, test scores, how our kids show up for class every day, ready and prepared to do the work, so to speak. The student experience, which is the piece that talks about, focuses on what our classroom environments look like, the types of spaces our kids come into and how they feel about where they are. Communications, constantly pushing out information about what's happening in the district to give a perspective of where we are and where we want to go so we can have community voice and opportunities to weigh in. And of course, finances, the part that drives everything. We can't do any of the work we do without finances being equitably distributed. So we always focus on these 4 core areas. As most of you know, because I think I'm looking at the faces, I think everybody here has been to at least one of these. Am I correct? That's what I'm thinking. That's good. So obviously, no, RISE. Is this your first one? Yes. Okay, your first as well? Okay. So RISE stands for review, identify, strategize, and engage. These are the 4 steps that help us get a feel for our community, get a feel for our school district, and understand what the real work will have to be going forward. As most of you know, I just started here in July. Getting a feel for the district is important, understanding the work that's been done, so we can get a better grip on what needs to happen going forward. There's a lot that needs to be done. So our RISE plan, the whole 100-day plan, is based on 6 different goals. First, every student being academically successful and prepared for life, work, or college. We want to make sure all of our kids have a pathway towards success after high school. We also are talking about what our tracking mechanisms are that help us understand how successful our kids are when they leave high school. We also want to look at what they're doing in college, what their work situations might look like, how well they're performing in the military. So we want to keep them close. Keeping them close does a couple of things for us. First of all, it gives us a way to support them continually because they're still part of our district. They'll always be part of our district. It gives them an opportunity to connect with some of our kids that are still in our district. And it also gives us a chance to measure how well we did our work to prepare them for what that world looked like. Goal number 2 is partner with families in the community for the education of all of our kids. We can't do it alone. I think everybody here understands that. Many of our parents struggle, just as the school district might struggle with certain things. We need each other in order to make our district what it should be. We have to be able to find ways that we can collaborate, share ideas, come up with new and different solutions to whatever obstacles we have to overcome. I often talk about problems being something that a lot of people like to talk about, but many times we don't do anything to solve them. I don't resort to admiring problems. That's not something I want to do. I want to solve those things and see those as opportunities to improve. Goal 3 focuses on our HR aspect of things, how we recruit, retain, develop, support our staff, so we always have a consistent group of professionals in front of our kids who are able to provide them with the types of services that they deserve. This is a hard thing to do in 2022, post-COVID. As you know, teacher shortages are a real thing. Not only for Montgomery, not only for Alabama, but for the entire nation. But we're going to do our best to find ways to recruit people to come here to work with our kids or to train our own. We have some ideas about how that might work as well to make sure we're able to have a staff that's ready to provide all that to our kids every day. Goal 4 focuses on an optimal, equitable learning environments for every kid, how we look at our facilities, how they're resourced, how we disseminate our resources to make sure there's some even playing fields that happen throughout our district. And kids get to have opportunities and access to do things that they want to do. All of our kids have different goals and dreams. How do we support all of them? That's important. There's no one path for every kid. Everyone has to have some sort of option or something that they want to buy into that helps them find whatever level of success they want to have for themselves. And we're not talking about the success we want for them, the success they want for themselves. That's so important. Goal 5 focuses on promoting efforts to enable students to be healthy, ready to learn. After COVID, we understand some new things about kids and about ourselves. Mental health is extremely important. How we support each other socially and emotionally is very important. Those things were underestimated before the pandemic. I guess they didn't want to hear what I had to say. Those things were really important before the pandemic, but we really didn't pay attention to them. Now it's important that we do. If we don't, we can't be successful in classrooms. Kids don't feel good, they don't perform well. It's a basic on how they actually come to the classroom. We have to pay attention to those things. And then goal 6, being effective, efficient, and transparent in our business operations. If anybody's familiar with Arthur Watts, he's our CSFO. Fantastic. One of the best individuals I've ever worked with. I so enjoy working with him, as well as the rest of our cabinet. He makes sure we do these things in the best possible fashion. One of the attractions for me to even want to come to the district is watching the work that he did that made me feel good about going to a district that understood financially what it needed to do. This one out too? I know. And he's good. Very good. So some things that have happened in the first 9 weeks of the school year for Goal 1. We're assessing a ton of things. We're just giving some highlights. Obviously, this is not an exhaustive list of all the work that's being done. But under Goal 1, which focuses on academically successful, prepare for life, work, and college for our kids, we've done a ton of things. Evaluating our progress, monitoring to establish baseline data points. This is where we look at all of our test data, all of our grade point averages, all of our grades in classrooms to give us a baseline on which we can build. You know what direction you want to go on this and know where you are. So we want to make sure we've been able to pull that information together to give us ideas about how we're going to go forward. I'm going to give up on these in a minute. Excuse my outside voice. As of tomorrow, we'll conclude all of the end of the year, end of the quarter exams. We're using standards-based assessments to take place. All that stuff is going on right now. That information will be used at schools, in classrooms, to inform classroom instruction. Not just to have information and data, but to actually use it to drive how we improve. When we're looking at tests tell us a number of different things. Obviously, it'll tell us how kids perform, but those tests also tell us how we perform. And if we as the adults aren't doing the things necessary for kids to be successful, we have to adjust what we're doing. So that information tells us more about what we need to do. We're having some real great discussions about how we can expand dual enrollment offerings so our kids can access more college classes. Our university partners are completely on board with making that happen. I'm excited to be able to launch what this is going to look like next year, but gathering all this information so we can provide all those opportunities for our kids is important. Dual enrollment to me is really important because, one, if kids want challenging coursework, we should be able to give that to them. Secondly, if they're getting enough challenging coursework, they're going to be saving money that they would have to spend for college. My previous district, we're about 1/4 the size of Montgomery. We had about 600 graduates each year. Every year, we had at least 25 to 30 kids who would walk across the stage with a high school diploma and an associate's degree from a community college. So they went into 4-year colleges as juniors. So we're only paying for 2 years of college in that case. That's an opportunity that is immense, not only for our community, but more specifically for our families and saving what those finances might be. The pre-ACT was taken this week, so that's another data point we'll be looking at. And we're analyzing all patterns of student achievement across the board, be it pre-K all the way through 12th grade. Finally, we have scheduled a curriculum audit done by a third party that will be done in February. They'll be sending 16 individuals into our schools to observe, do focus group interviews, do observations, and give us back feedback on what they see. That third party eye, if you will, is unbiased, completely objective, and will give us an opportunity to build on what those things that they find. Under goal number 2, partnering with families in the community and the education of our youth. This is only a fraction of the numbers of meetings I've had for the past 9 weeks. I feel like I've been all over the place meeting with everybody all the time. First of all, the Gear Up implementation at middle school and high school. This is a program that we partner with our university partners to get mentors for academic coaching for our kids to come in the classrooms. These are college students who will partner with our kids to help push them forward. We met with the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts and how we can expand our kids' opportunities and access to those programs. Met with so many city and county entities to make sure the partnerships that we have established are firm and that we're doing those things together. Because again, we've said this numbers of times, our community can't be successful without our school district being successful and vice versa. Those things work in concert. We want to work to strengthen partnerships with our business community. So I've met with the Rotary, I've met with the Chamber of Commerce, and we have a lot of ideas about how we want to continue to expand programming. There'll be plans to meet with focus groups of teachers and students in the next few weeks. That'll be important as well to gain their perspective of where we are. And then we have an effort to bring families back to school. You know, when COVID struck, obviously school shut down and we didn't have adults coming in the buildings as much as possible, just like every other school in America. We're starting to bring that back now. We want our parents and our families to be in our schools, to interact with our kids, to be role models for our kids. So Grandparents' Day, Parent Community Day, Bring Your Parent to PE Day. Those are just 3 examples of things that have already taken place. Yes, ma'am. Oh, sure. I'm sorry. I skipped over that one. I'm sorry. We're reimagining the role of our parent liaison. We want that to be someone who not only is able to connect with families and bring them into schools, but also to find family partnerships and create opportunities for families and parents to gain information. We talked a lot about financial literacy for our kids. That's something that state law says we have to do. We should anyway. That should be something that they get an opportunity to see K through 12. We also want to create those opportunities for our parents. Because if kids are going home and having conversations about finances with their parents and they're speaking the same language, that's pretty powerful to break generational poverty. We want to be able to have those conversations and provide those opportunities for our parents as well.
Are you informing the principals that is their job?
We talked a lot about making sure they engage parents and bringing them to school. Yes, absolutely.
One thing that needs to be done, but they understand that they are liaison.
Absolutely. And in many ways, we all are. But we want one person that's able to organize all that information to make sure we're all getting together in that respect. Thank you for those points. Goal 3 talks about recruiting, developing, and supporting our staff. We've undertaken a compensation study to make sure we're competitive in terms of salaries for positions all the way across the board. That should wrap up sometime in November, if not sooner, so we have an idea of how we can reconstruct whatever salary schedules we have to be attractive for other people to come work here. We're crafting plans for recruitment for next year, be it going to teacher fairs, how we're going to recruit teachers, how we're going to work with universities to get their best to come to us first. Our Summer Leadership Institute is something that will continue. We had a great Summer Institute this summer with our principals and our administrative staff to talk about expectations, to talk about instructional methods, to talk about how we're going to improve. I look forward to what we're going to do with that information then. We currently have monthly leadership development meetings with both our principals and our assistant principals, because we also want to be able to develop that type of leadership. So we're not necessarily having to go outside of the district to find leaders to fill positions. We want to build from within and increase our capacity. Planning for the future calendars, school calendars, we want to be able to allow for some more professional development days potentially. And looking at our current calendar for this year, which I think was approved, was it last year or the year before? Last year. There's not enough time in that schedule that allows us to work with teachers and work with staff to provide PD, so we want to build the calendar for next year. We'll have some tweaks to it that may allow for that. And then finally, our teacher professional development, that's ongoing and supported by coaches in classrooms. Not just people monitoring and overseeing things, but actually coaching. Giving ideas, sharing ideas about practice and how we can improve. Under Goal 4, with optimal and equitable learning environments, crafting plans to revamp our student pathways, our structure, and our accessibility. That is so important to me and to our team. We want to make sure kids are able to see the things that they're interested in and know what those things are, and in some ways, more importantly, see the things that they're not interested in. We've talked before about, many times kids when they're younger, they want to be doctors or lawyers or what have you, but they have no idea what that really means. We want to be able to show them in some respects what that is so they can make proper choices. Also understanding in some of those entities, so let's say a hospital, there's so many different things you can do in a hospital that doesn't necessarily involve being a doctor or a nurse. Many times our kids don't know that. So we want to put those things in front of them. We're identifying our partners to assist in that development. We know that we can't, if we were going to develop, let's say, a fine arts pathway, if you will, for our kids, we wouldn't necessarily be the ones to be able to do that on our own. So we want to partner with folks like the Shakespeare Festival so they can help us build those things. They know theater better than we do, so why not have them partner with us to help build that? Those conversations have taken place already. And our partners are they're ready to go. So all we have to do is organize our efforts and launch what we want to put together. And in assessing our infrastructure to make decisions about how best to optimize our learning environments, you see construction going on all over the district. There's so many different projects that are not only going on now, but are scheduled to happen. And that's so we can bring about equity. We know some of our buildings look better than others. I'll just leave that at that. We want to make that more equitable so everyone can come into learning environments they can be proud of. Goal 5, promoting students that are healthy and ready to learn. We've talked about best practices to address students' social, emotional, and mental health needs. I mentioned that earlier. That is so important. We also have to take into account our adults and their own social, emotional, and mental health. We talked about introducing restorative practices, what this basically means. Well, first of all, I'd say, kids are kids. Kids are going to make mistakes. That's part of being a kid. I did the same thing myself. The question is, how do you learn from those mistakes? And how do you adjust to those mistakes? Or is that a mistake that stays with you for the rest of your life? Is that how that's supposed to look? I don't think so. I think a kid is supposed to learn from that mistake and be able to make amends to be better the next time around. Also learning how those mistakes impact them and others around them. That's what restorative practices look like. And in meeting with various community members and agencies to establish mentorship opportunities. Our kids need to see adults who are in work situations being good citizens in the community and understand what those models look like. If we don't provide them those models, they're going to find models somewhere. And sometimes they're not models we want them to find. They're going to emulate something. So if they can see greatness in the people who are in front of them, they're going to aspire to greatness. That's what we want them to see. And then finally, goal 6, Mr. Watson's shot, being efficient, effective, and transparent in business operations. We've held 2 budget hearings already this year. We've had a completely clean financial audit, which we're extremely proud of. HR has assessed our staffing needs and added teacher units to support our student population. So where there's overcrowding, we try to alleviate some of that. Excuse me. We have regular discussions about expenditures and how we use them based on needs. Not based on everybody gets the same thing, but based on actual needs. Those are conversations we have every single week. And then obviously planning for the future. This school year is this school year. We want to be able to plan for the next school year and 3 years later and 5 and 10 years later. We've got to be able to plan out into the future to make sure we're doing the things that are right. I know a lot of things people may want today that aren't necessarily possible just because of timing or when things happen. But over time, we can make things happen in the best possible ways. So those are the 6 goal summaries in terms of what we've done with each of those goals during the first quarter of the school year. It's only been 9 weeks, but I'll be honest, it feels like 12 years. It's been a long, long 9 weeks. But at the same time, that work's been fun, that work's been challenging, and it's the right work to do. And we know we can't be a perfect school district overnight. We will never be a perfect school district ever, but we'll continue to chase that. That's what chasing perfection and always trying to get better every day looks like. So as far as the goals summary is concerned, that's really what I wanted to share tonight, just to give you some thoughts on that. The document we put out way back in August, which was the MPS RISE plan. Another version of that will come out soon, which will show some check marks about things that have been completed. I would say we're probably 65 to 70% complete. I've been in 29 buildings, I think it is. If you combine Ms. Wilson and I think we probably covered every building, but I still have a few more to go. I will be in every building myself. So far, so good. Thank you. I'm not able to get there as quickly as I'd like to because I have a bunch of other meetings to do, because by now I would have wanted to touch everybody, but we'll get them done within the next 5 to 6 weeks. We'll be done with everybody, and then we can start really doing the work to go revisit schools. Because I think sometimes people think, I visit once and I'm done. We're going back. We're going in some classrooms because I get my joy in working with kids. When I can see kids and interact with them, that's where I get a smile, and that's where I get some joy. So I will definitely be back in classrooms quite often, as much as I possibly can. So with the goals, we wanted to share that, but then obviously open the floor to any potential questions folks might have. I hope you're having a good school year. We're having a good school year. We wanted to get better. We want to have a great school year, and we're building on that. But we've had a very good start to the school year overall, despite any challenges we may have to confront.
Maybe not questions. I know most
Questions, comments?
Yeah, maybe comments.
Sure.
Some ideas. This is a great time to collaborate and to make progress.
Yes, ma'am.
You talked about a lot of things, and you probably said it, but I don't remember hearing it. Did you say anything about field trips, about schools starting back taking field trips and going out?
I didn't mention that, but we have started school field trips back again. I know some schools have been more hesitant to do it than others, but we've given a go-ahead that we can get those back in place. We know COVID isn't going anywhere, and we've got to learn to deal with it. And so to shut down all those types of opportunities for our kids for that probably isn't the best thing to do. No questions means we're fairly satisfied right now. I'm good with that. Yes, sir. There's one in the back.
Yes, can you elaborate or speak a little bit more on when you're talking about you want to have Parents' Day? What you foresee seeing when you talk about Parents' Day?
Oh, okay. That might, well, in case anyone didn't hear that, he was talking about some of the opportunities we had to re-engage with parents, such as Parents' Day. That may look different in every school. So what happens if in my elementary school when I was a principal, we would have a couple of different opportunities throughout the year, such as a field day or a holiday or whatever the case may be, where parents could come in and just spend time with kids in classrooms. So it could look very different in one building versus another. Whatever we can do to get kids, or to get parents involved in school and present in school, we want to do those things.
Any other comments or questions?
Yeah, I got another question.
Yes, sir.
As we look into the future, you know, a lot of things will geared more towards having technical skills. So, how are we going to try to balance that? I know we got impact, and
Good question.
we got impact, and we got our magnitude. But let's say for the kids that don't attend impact, how can we get some of that technical skill within our school?
Great question. Great question. What we've talked about, when I mentioned earlier about pathways for kids, that's exactly what that points to. We want to create programs at every school that give kids opportunities to see exactly that. If we're in a position where only a handful of schools give those types of opportunities, obviously we keep those opportunities from some kids. We want to create mechanisms that allow all kids to have those opportunities. So what we would foresee into the future are potential programs, CTE oriented or whatever the case may be, that are associated with the 16 career clusters that are sprinkled all over our district. And kids can have choice about where they may want to go based on what they're interested in. Did we answer your question? Exactly. Yep.
I've been volunteer and helping over the college with class and showed them the video for Amazon going forward. They are eliminating manual
Yep.
labor, and if you know how to use a computer, that's what we need to be going for.
That sounds like a video called The Future of Work. It looks very different than what we saw when we were in school. Absolutely. We've got to make our kids nimble and adaptable to different types of situations. Therefore, we need to expose them to different types of situations. Yes, ma'am.
Parents called me and asked a question about their being allowed to go into the school and possibly sit in on classroom where the child was, and they were told that they couldn't do it.
Let me talk to you afterwards. Because I think it depends on the situation. Parents are able to go visit, but I know they have to set those things up. And sometimes we worry about student confidentiality and things of that nature. So every situation is probably different. So I can't give a general answer to that. But there's probably a specific answer I can give. Yeah. Yeah, I would encourage them to work with their principal, and I'm sure there are ways we can help parents be able to access the types of things they need to see if there's a need for that such a thing. So I wouldn't want to give a blanket answer to that. Okay. Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
just wanted to thank the gentleman for mentioning what he's talked about, because I see so many things, with the Magnum schools here, and you have so many other students and kids that need other opportunities.
Absolutely.
It seems like the doors have been shut.
Mm-hmm.
So, with that said, what you're saying is develop something within these schools. Impact is good, Magnet schools is good. But you got so many other kids that are out here that are inspired and want so many other things, but they are limited.
Yep, completely agree.
So thank God, this door is going to be open for them. Like you said, every school, that they can have an opportunity. They may not be an A student.
And that's okay.
know
I wasn't
they
either.
may not fit the picture of one magnet school, whatever maybe you may be looking at,
Right.
but you have some that really do desire to learn and really become something.
Absolutely. And those kids who struggle, if there's a spark because they see something they're interested in, it changes the whole trajectory of their lives.
Yes.
And we need to be able to provide those opportunities. We know we can't finish it overnight, but that's the goal, to make those things available everywhere.
Well, I wanted to say one thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Since you've been here, I want you to understand, since Mr. Watts has been in the position that he is,
Mr. Watts is the man.
we respect the financial department more so, because for all these years, we never did get an accurate record of what was going on with the finance. We always got possible answers. These answers are this, and we'll know more each time we do a report or something of that nature. And since he's been here, everybody respects the office that he does, the job that he does.
If I can say one more thing about that office, typically in his role, people who fill his role aren't necessarily in the room when we're talking about instruction and how dollars impact classrooms. Mr. Watts is right there with us when we talk about those conversations. So he understands and sees how the dollars show up in classrooms. Absolutely.
We don't have any other questions or comments. We certainly will.
I might catch kickoff for this Thursday night game.
We do want to thank you all again for coming out. We have the schedule for the remaining town halls on our website, which is www.mps.k12.al.us. And again, but there is one important announcement for our parents. I think Dr. Williamson would like for me to highlight the updated checkout procedure. That procedure is on our website, so we're asking all parents, guardians to please review that. It is a part of the student conduct manual. Again, that updated checkout procedure is on our website, super important. So we will begin to push that update for quite some time. Good to go, Dr. Williamson. Any other announcements? You can tell I do this in another space. Any other announcements? Okay. Well, all right. Well, we thank you all so much, and I think we'll see you soon. Thank you.